The process of moving through levels of consciousness appears as phases. So what we refer to normally as levels of consciousness are also typical phases that we all go through. We are not bound to fixed states of mind, but have phases and are in constant process. Such phases are in the background of our inner and world work. Phases 1 and 2 are what others would probably agree to as consensus reality, relaxing and/or fighting. Phase 1 commonly occurs when you think, oh, here I am. Forget dreaming. I don't want to think about anything. I don't want any problems. Leave me alone. In this phase, we don't want more new thoughts or problems. That's phase 1. Forget the other phases. Amy and I were recently working on the tsunami and tidal waves destruction in Fukushima, Japan. Thanks to Takeo Kiriyama for his work there, we learned that many children were getting thyroid cancer from the remaining radiation. That terrible tsunami had occurred a few years earlier, but many Japanese had suffered a lot just thinking about those terrible problems. They were thinking, leave us alone. We don't want to have to think about that painful event. They were in phase 1. So, to do group process work with those people and their government meant that we needed to acknowledge that many of them wanted to forget all the trouble. That forgetting is phase 1. Phase 1 in organizational settings and world work is extremely important to appreciate. You can try to fight the tendency to avoid problems in phase 1, but people in phase 1 open more quickly if their need to avoid pain is appreciated. Only then can they begin to deal with phase 2 problems. In phase 2, the problem that you were ignoring, let's call it X, is back. Your inner critic and outer negative political figures are X figures, creating tension for many people in phase 2. Phase 2 is full of tension and conflict. In phase 2, fight what is bothering you. If it is a body symptom, try medicine to fight it. But medicine usually represses phase 3. Perhaps one of our biggest world problems is our tendency to focus only on consensus reality in phase 1 and, in phase 2, fighting. Today, most people ignore phase 3, role switching, and phase 4, detaching, and therefore, we marginalize our full potential in conflict. We believe conflict means get out there and fight in phase 2. Dreaming in phase 3? Who needs that? To hell with that dreamlike junk. We have real problems. Let's get out and fight. That's phase 2, which is a crucial phase, but not the only phase. The dream body idea, on the other hand, is that you are your dreams and you are like the body feelings that bother you. So feel your symptoms and ask yourself how you are that symptom energy. Phase 3 suggests that the things you hate are like you. Phase 3 is marginalized in politics, but not psychology. Everywhere in the normal world, people believe, I am this, I am not the other, and I am not role switching. No need to dream. This is the reality we have got to deal with. Fighting in phase 2 is important, but our relationship to the other side depends upon phase 3, role switching. This is one of the keys to our world work. You can not only switch roles, but you can reflect on yourself from the other's viewpoint. This is a key to world problems. In phase 2, you look at what is bothering you, X, and think, let's get rid of it. Go to the doctor, take an aspirin, and shut up. That makes sense sometimes, but remember to listen to that X. Most of us are like the most rational doctors and one-sided politicians. We need phase 3 and phase 4. Phase 3 shows us that we are not just talking about an X that bothers us. We are also thinking about another part of us, an X we don't know well. In phase 3, the possibility of exploring that X problem and/or role switching becomes possible. The monsters you deal with in everyday reality often appear as dream figures at night. That implies that you are at least a bit like X. We need to face that X problem inside as well as outside. In phase 3, X is recognized as an aspect of yourself. Since you dream about X, there is the possibility of role switching in phase 3 and discovering how you too are like that X. In psychological work and in world work, such role switching can be crucial for relationships and solutions. Phase 3 is a dreamlike phase, close to the essence level, or phase 4. Phase 4, flowing through all this with detachment. Phase 4 is the essence experienced within or behind the other phases and experiences. With awareness, you can go to this phase 4 essence level from any one of the other levels. Phase 4 is fluidity, flow, and detachment, or what Fukushima Roshi called empty mind, creative mind. He deliberately added the word creative to empty mind. When you are in this phase 4 process mind state, you will be able to notice that new things pop up that you would hardly expect. If during a conflict, you can drop into the essence level, which at first has no images, only a sense of openness and quietness, you will flow better. It helps you stay fluid between phase 1, 2, and 3. Sense phase 4 as much as possible. Everything changes. Remember phase 1. Enjoy life. In phase 2, notice conflict. I am tense and upset. I am troubled. We are in conflict. Try to solve it. Work on it. But if you are open to this phase and expect it, you won't get stuck in it. I loved my teachers in psychology, but they suspected or hoped, as in many spiritual traditions, that if you worked on your problems, you would become whole. You integrated problems and became free. You were enlightened. Yes, work on all problems, but the more fluid you are with your own and others' agonies and ecstasies, the better you will be in working with organizations, realizing that everyone and all groups go through phases. Hating conflict is natural. However, with a process work attitude, you can flow with things. Then you will be better at fighting in phase 2 and taking the other side you're attacking or being attacked by in phase 3. See life in phase 3 occasionally through the other's eyes. Then your opponents will go with you more quickly and not just hate you for awakening them. Remember phase 4, detached, fluid, flow. Sometimes you wake up tired, or you wake up depressed and think, oh no, why go on? From the larger viewpoint, fatigue and depression may press you to let go. Then you can feel deeply in yourself and let it move you. You need not do things. Simply let your deepest phase 4 nature do them. Don't just be down on yourself if you feel down, but go further down and let go. If you are exhausted, that can also be a good thing. Yes, of course, take a nap. Being tired can be a quick way to go deeper into your detached phase 4. Let me give an example of dream body work. I had a cold recently, so I took vitamin C. I fought the cold, phase 2, and I recuperated in a few days. But since I was a little tired afterwards, I realized that I needed that fatigue and went with it. The X was tiredness that felt like an ocean carrying me. So in phase 3, I looked at myself through that ocean's eye and I saw something quite amazing. From the ocean's viewpoint, I, Arnie, looked very linear and structured. That helped me to change and flow more. See yourself from the viewpoint of X, of your symptom, and you will find a key to your psychology and good health. I had a cold, and I was tired for a week afterwards. I was doing a lot of things and was rigidly tense in phase 2. From the viewpoint of phase 3, I realized that I was not flowing enough. My problem was that the ocean was arising to make me more fluid. So I switched roles, as in phase 3, and entered phase 4, becoming the ocean that flows. Medicine is important to fight problems in 2, but it is not the whole story. It is phase 2, fight it, an important aspect, but not the whole process. Practice role switching with symptom energies. Remember also to look at yourself from the viewpoint of the symptom, discover its viewpoint, and bring that into life. Amy and I were working in Dublin just before the end of the severe conflicts between the Protestants and the Catholics there. The leaders of the two main opposing forces were screaming, louder than anything I have ever heard. They were really yelling, each wanting to injure the other. Amy and I were in the middle trying to facilitate, but there was so much emotion and so much shouting, I couldn't think. Everyone was screaming, pressing toward the center of the room where two men were yelling at one another. The emotion was so severe that I lost my normal state of consciousness and everything I had ever learned. I am not sure what happened to me, and even before I knew about phase 4, the situation knocked me out. I felt nervous, I was shaking, and then I let go entirely. Then when I looked up, I saw for the first time the neck of one of the men fighting in the center. He was a very light-colored man with a very, very red neck. I simply said to him in the group, "Oh, your neck is so red." But I had to scream that in the middle of everybody else screaming, "You have a red neck!" To my shock, he said, "Yes, my doctor said I wasn't to come here today because I have lethally high blood pressure, and if I go into this conflict, I could die." Then suddenly, the man opposing him on the other side screamed, You could die? My doctor told me not to come because of my heart. My doctor told me I could die." The whole screaming room of people quieted down as these two men stood there in shock, looking at one another. After a few minutes, they came closer to one another, and realizing they could both die, they embraced in the middle of the room with hundreds of people around them. It was an indescribable conflict resolution moment. Their screaming, everyone screaming, knocked me out into the essence level. Essence level intelligence saw that very irritated red neck. They came together by themselves. I didn't do much at all. We need to remember that being knocked out into phase 4 is a marginalized state, potentially full of wisdom.